First of all, well, this is related to the fact that international organizations have been trying to be more open to the input of non-state actors since, let's say, 1995. There's really been a peak in the number of international organizations, international NGOs, for instance, that go to these conferences. And the question is really, well, we see a lot of activity, but what does this activity mean? Is it that they can have an actual impact on what is going on here? Are people satisfied with what is going on? So it's I would say it's not enough to just see whether an organization is open, but it's in front of it, basically what you see. But actually, is it also open at the conference itself, and are people satisfied? So that's basically the reason why you do that.
And so I guess there are many different answers to that question.
Yes, sure.
Some are satisfied, some come back. Do you find that organizations come here once and don't return to the next COP? And if so, why?
That's interesting, but actually most of the organizations that come here only come once. In our data set, there are 8,000 organizations that have been here since 1995 to 2011, so the last COP in Durban. And actually, I think 60% or something like that just comes once and then never comes back. And an approximate amount of other organizations come twice and then we never see them back. It's always the usual suspects, the bigger ones with resources, with money, and these are firms, but also the bigger NGOs that are able to come back and attend.
The ones that don't return, what are the reasons they give for not coming back?
Well, there are several reasons, of course, but one important is that they are frustrated in the sense that it's more like a carnival or a circus, and that the ability to actually come where you want to do is having influence or participate and talk to policymakers. They're not able to do that, so that's a problem for them. The other reason I would say is that it's maybe getting a little bit too big, and there are so many organizations. So for a small organization to stand out, it's very, very difficult. So they see the benefit of networking and talking to people in their community, but in terms of having an impact or having influence, it's very difficult.
8,000 organizations over the last few years. Presumably some of those organizations do much the same thing. There's a fair amount of duplication. Yes. Do you find that to be the case?
Oh, unbelievable. Yes. There's actually only a few sectors that a lot of organizations are working on. So what you do see is that there's a level of specialization. So you see that when the conferences go on, you see that some issues that have not been dealt with that are dealt with, so the diversity gets big. But in general, most of them are working on quite similar issues, so it's quite narrow in that sense. Right. Yes.
I mean, do they talk to each other? Are they able to talk to each other? I mean, does your investigation allow you to discover that? You know.
Yes. Yes, actually, because we also look at which networks they participate in. And yes, they do reach each other. I don't think the problem is that they don't reach each other, because these conferences are quite well for people to get to know each other, get ideas. But to actually translate that to political activity, that's where the problem is. And that's where you can question whether such conferences such as this are effective in that sense. Well, we open it up. A lot more people, but actually it are the same people that were there in 1991 doing the lobbying are still the ones that are doing the actual lobbying. So it's more people, but what does that mean?
And I guess another big issue being a climate change conference is that people are questioning their carbon footprint as against the benefits of being at this meeting. Do you find that to be a major problem, a major reason why people question their participation?
Yeah, sure, definitely, because it is so. But on the other hand, well, people should meet. It's good that people meet. So there should be a venue that people meet, and this is a venue for people to meet. But it doesn't necessarily have to be linked to the negotiation, because that provides a legitimacy to the policymakers in the sense, well, we're open for everybody. But on the other hand, they're basically not, because the actual negotiators come, what is it, in the last week or the last few days. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. But I'm a scientist, so I'm neutral in that, but it might be difficult.
I mean, is it possible to say from the data that you've gathered whether these meetings work? I mean, it's a very general question, but do meetings work? Have we progressed? Are we progressing? Or does it just become a talking shop?
Well, I have to be careful, because, for instance, I also do work on the WTO. Well, if you look at the WTO, it's really that. And that's also not good, because there's no negotiation at all, there's no NGO participation. So I wouldn't say that it's completely a waste of time. Definitely not. It's good that people talk, that they keep the topic urgent. there are people who get through to the negotiate. A lot of work is doing in the work too. So I wouldn't go thus far to say that it's just keeping everybody happy and doing just something. But we seriously have to question whether we want to keep it this big, because there are a lot of organizations here that after 2-3 days notice, well, basically what I'm doing here. And that's, I don't think it's a very good point.